We are now joined by famed swimmer Diana Nyad, the first and only person to swim unaided from Cuba all the way to Florida. Her memoir, Find a Way, is out now. Thank you so much for joining us.
Linsey, it's my pleasure. How are you?
I am well. I cannot complain. Glad to be able to talk with you tonight. Now, you, of course, recently wrote an op-ed about the case of Lia Thomas in the Washington Post, headlined, "Celebrate Trans Athletes, but Give Cisgender Women a Fair Shot at Victory." And you made the case that athletes born as male who transition after puberty may have an unfair physical advantage. Just explain your stance for us.
Well, and, you know, let me be clear that my story and my opinion isn't certainly about Lia Thomas. It's about It's about the issue, at large. And, the point is that sports are not just about inclusion and participation. If they were, then we would just say, well, we don't even need men's and women's divisions. Let's just have a big everybody play football and everybody run track all together, and we'll just be a big happy family competing as you do with 5-year-olds. But once a male, as a born biological male, has gone through puberty, has had 10 to 20 times the testosterone exposure than any cisgender woman, meaning a woman born biologically female. Let's say that male who went through puberty, as Lia Thomas has, as a male, then does years. Lia Thomas, in case, was 2 years, but does years of estrogen therapy to bring the testosterone down to a level that would match what cisgender women have. So you bring the testosterone down, but there are still a whole host of what we call legacy traits. They're called basically retained traits, that come from that exposure to testosterone from, in utero all the way through puberty. And now you've got larger bones, longer bones, you've got bigger lungs. We could go over 25 different legacy traits that make it unfair to compete against a biological woman. And I'm torn because I want inclusion. I love the binary that's disappearing from our society in general, and we're opening our arms to transgender, intersex individuals, all kinds of more than just the boy and the girl. We're open now, but not in the world of women's sports. It's not fair. And I'll tell you something, this sounds radical, but if we continue like this and open up women's sports to all trans athletes, one day we will never know the next Serena Williams, the next Katie Ledecky, the next great women athletes, because trans athletes will be superior to all those wonderful, superior women athletes.
Well, I want you to take a listen to something that Yale swimmer Isaac Hennig, who has competed against Thomas, told Arjuju Tang.
I think one of the things that I always come back to is an athlete like Michael Phelps, who we can all point to and say, yeah, he has twice the lung capacity of any one of his competitors, but no one was upset or, calling it unfair. If you're going to point to those things, then your conclusion has to be, well, yeah, they were built to do sport, or they were built to swim. It's not about puberty, because anyone can go through any sort of hormonal change and still not be a great athlete, because there is just so much more to great athletes than hormones.
What do you say of that argument, Diana, that regardless of gender or hormones, different athletes may have different physical advantages?
Yeah, within their gender. And so it's a faulty argument, and there's no scientist who could sit and listen to that and say, oh yeah, so Michael Phelps, it's not fair. He was born with, longer arms, and, he's got a bigger lung capacity. Within the male environment of sports, there are all kinds of talents and abilities, a big range, and Michael Phelps is at the top of it. The same with women's sports. But in this case, for the trans athlete, you're bringing male characteristics that aren't just an individual's talent. They have to do with being born and going through puberty male, that the female athlete doesn't want to step up to the blocks and compete against someone who is inherently has characteristics that do not make that individual fair to compete against.
So who should a transgender woman compete against?
Yeah, that's the problem of where we are right now. You know, I said in my article that in 1967, I was graduating high school already. Women were not allowed to compete in the marathon, the Boston Marathon, the New York Marathon. You know, they just, there was a group, you know, of people who thought, they're too frail. Can you imagine? I'm like hold the world record for the longest swim in history, more than any man's ever done. So we're not too frail to do anything. But that was the thinking. Well, now we springboard forward to where we are today, and 50% of the Boston Marathon runners are women. 50%. So there was no place for us at a certain time until there was Title IX, you know, until we proved ourselves. We had nowhere to compete except against men. Don't think it's fair for the trans athlete who has gone from male to female and had puberty as a male to compete against cisgender women. But I wish there were a place that trans athlete deserves to have a place to compete and fulfill their potential and feel their joy. And right now, we don't have a solution. We don't.
Diana Nyad, we thank you so much for this conversation. Appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thank you, Lindsay. Take care.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.